That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 52 for Thursday, June 9th, 2016. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, joined in the PETM Podcast studio in Atlanta, Georgia by Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's happening, Sherwin?
What's up, brother? Welcome to the fastest growing podcast on the internet. We're doing episode 52, which feels like a lot of fun. And we're in the podcast studio again, drinking some cold natural light in these big-ass 25-ounce cans.
Well, you've started.
I spilled the beans on
You've
them.
started to answer our first question of the night, as always. What you drinking? Maybe tell us a story behind this one.
Well, sometimes, so the history for Rusty and I is when we walk into a store and we see something we just have to have, we buy it.
True.
Particularly when it's related to booze. And so Natural Light has run the perfect campaign to get me to buy two 25-ounce Natural Light singles. So that's what happened.
Well, they call it the big one, and it takes you back every time to sitting in the fraternity
It's actually
house
not a
drinking
bad beer, to
It's
be honest with you. You're going to sit
terrible.
around and drink beer. It ain't bad.
Whatever. A big shout-out. We've got our producer with us today.
Serena, speak up. Woo! There she is.
The Frizz 11 is with us, and she is drinking on a can of wine. What is that called? Alloy
Wine and Works.
Wine and Works. So Alloy, A-L-L-O-Y.
What's that? Grenache Red? Rosé.
Rosé. All right. She's drinking the rosé.
You drinking white Zinfandel over there out of a can? Is that what's going
That's
on?
fantastic. That's a way to get the PETM posse
I mean,
ladies.
That's as what you drinking as it gets right there.
Yeah. And I wonder if you pour that into like a glass, how funny that would be. Sort of a ironic way of drinking it, huh? You did drink it like that at the lake. But yeah, take it to the pool, take it to the lake. You got your wine with you in the can.
Heck
Might as
yeah.
well.
Hey, Maggie. Hey, Bat. Hey, Karen.
Hey, PETM posse. Let's go into the 52 car. It's episode number 52 here,
Episode
buddy.
52, y'all.
Episode 52.
So this means a lot to us because this is actually, as we talked about last week, we had the birthday episode or the anniversary episode or however you want to say it. We are entering our 53rd week of doing the podcast, and we're on our 52nd episode. We're pretty proud that we're almost week to week.
Yeah.
Even in the off season.
And if you listen to every episode once a week, you'll have a whole year's worth of stuff to listen to now. So that's kind of neato. But as we always do, we want to talk about the number 52 car on the 52nd episode. And I found old Jimmy Means, who raced 455.
Jimmy Means. He raced 455 times in the 52 car.
Over 18 years in the 70s and 80s, matter of fact.
Wow.
And he has a great-looking, I think it was an Alka-Seltzer car. It's like a little bit lighter blue than Petty Blue, and that thing looked cool as crap.
That's awesome.
And he was part of the Alabama gang with the Allisons and all them boys.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I dug up some 52s of my own.
Well, real quick, he's a big fan of Dale Jr., and Jr. grew up a fan of his, and he has a son, Brad Means. And Brad Means...
I've heard that name.
Yeah. Brad Means is real good friends, about best friends with Dale Jr., so that's kind of neat as well with them. So, driver-owner...
I've definitely seen Brad Means on the side of a truck.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and it's Means Racing because driver-owner and all that, so cheers, old Jimmy Means.
Yeah, so there's two folks that I wanted to bring up that drove the 52. One is none other than Brad Keselowski's older brother, Brian, who is a racer at heart, just like their dad, Bob. He still works on cars. I saw a really neat Instagram where he was basically doing a tour of a car that he was building that had been basically stripped down or was being built from the ground up, which is cool. Not for NASCAR, but for another series. And then the latest driver of the 52 in Sprint Cup was Bobby Labonte.
Bobby Labonte, one of the brothers.
Yep, one of the brothers.
So, what did you say? You said something interesting to me. Who was that first person you just said?
Brian Keselowski.
You remember when was it the 500, the Daytona 500 that he ran?
Oh, it was a huge deal.
Yeah, when he and Brad were both running that race.
Brad helped push him
cool.
to get into. So he finished high enough in his duel to qualify for the race.
Yep.
And he had his brother to, owe the thanks to for that. So
PETM Posse here chiming in. I saw Maggie Dubs saying that she helped Brian relocate or adopt or whatever it is, a little puppy last year. So
that's
cool.
That's fantastic.
That's great.
Brian's been really cool. I mean, I think I said something at some point, either on the podcast handle or on my personal, that Brian didn't agree with, and he chimed in, and I was kind of like, okay, so you know all this stuff about these cars and how they work and what the process is. Can I lean on you to ask questions? He's like, absolutely. Ask questions whenever you want.
Awesome.
And so I've done that, it's been a couple of months since I've asked him anything, but particularly related to plate cars because, he's kind of he shows up for Daytona and Talladega when he does show up. And it was really interesting that how frank he was willing to be over Twitter about, the very scientific stuff that goes on with building a plate car.
Yep. Well, that's cool. So Sherwin came through with a game changer earlier today. He texted me, and my response back was way too not safe to put on a podcast. But Sherwin, tell us what you just came across and have procured for the PETM tailgate.
Yeah, so a couple hours ago, a former coworker, guy I used to sit next to in Cubeland in the big corporate world, says, "Hey man, do you know anybody that wants an egg?" And
big green egg.
He sent me a picture, and it wasn't a big green egg. I think it was what the Komodo Joe is. Uh-huh. And I looked at it, and I saw all the things I needed to see, which is dual layer ceramics.
Yep.
And I said, "Well, how much does he want for it, and why is he selling it?" He said he wants $100, and he's just done with using it.
And that's $100.
Well, consider it sold, and we'll have to figure out how I can get it because it ain't going in the trunk of the Mustang.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, if you buy me a slice of pizza, we can sling it in the back of my truck, and you can get it."
Boom.
And so now the PETM podcast boys are going to be able to roll to the racetrack with a show enough cooking device.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We've been using my old $50 little Smokey Joe piece of junk now. It's falling apart.
Old Texas Tower smoker.
Yes, sir. And that thing, I mean, God rest its soul, it has provided us with some of the best racing food it's ever been, but it's time to retire.
It would be hard to find someone or a group of guys that have created better food with similar equipment for as long as we did.
Yeah, that thing's made to last about 6 months, and here it is going on 8-10 years.
And it's been to, it's probably been to, I guess, probably 20 race weekends. So it's participated in 40 to 50 races.
For sure. No doubt about it.
40 to 50 race meals, easy.
So big time right there coming through. PETM podcast car last week, old 24K Kenny Smith at the Lee County Speedway.
Had another good run, even though he had a little bit of a brake issue.
Yeah, took a little damage on the brakes, and the calipers sort of
hit the wall a little bit.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of rubbing around. Yeah, got his Darlington stripe there. But sitting right now, 7th in points in the series. How about that?
That's so cool. That's really
cool?
neat. The thing that's so cool about it is, if we hadn't have done that, like there's this whole other world we have access to that we never would have had if we hadn't have said, "Hey, Kenny, I want to be a partner."
Yep.
Let's slap the old PETM sticker on the car.
Yep.
And let's go racing.
Yep. And it's been more fun. It's paid for itself 10 times over. Don't tell Kenny I ain't going to pay 10 times as much next year.
He's watching. I guarantee.
I know he is. But, tomorrow night, Periscope action. He'll be back in the saddle and racing around Lee County Speedway. And, we're going to be looking forward to it, obviously.
Very much looking forward to it. I'm stoked.
Yep.
Especially knowing that we don't race at night at Michigan, so I'm not going to have to sacrifice any NASCAR time to get to watch Kenny race. That's cool as hell.
Well, it's funny, me and the Frizz 11, we usually go out to eat on a Friday night, and right around 7:30, 8 o'clock, that's when the first heat races start, and so I've got my phone out. We're sitting at a little restaurant somewhere around here, and I got the phone out, and there's Kenny going round and round in circles, so it's fun to watch. So let's go to Pocono.
Let's go to Pocono.
Well, yeah, there's let's definitely physically.
Let's get on an airplane, take Deputy Hines, Rob, up on his offer to pick us up at Scranton Wilkes Bar. We'll have one suitcase packed with our tent.
And one suitcase packed with cold Miller Lite.
Yeah, Rob will have to stop at the store where they sell the beer. Mm. And we'll buy a bunch of it.
Yes, sir.
But Pocono, how about the Saturday race? You know, I hate a race ending under rain conditions, but boy, don't you just kind of feel like Larson deserved one? Like he'd paid his dues.
He's been paying dues for a while right now.
Yeah. So that was fine.
Getting some.
Yeah, we're tame on the podcast because exactly what you just said. We can't get away with that.
Oh, that's funny. That was funny. We got to. If you're listening in, we had a very funny comment on the Periscope just now. So back to it. We had the Saturday night race. And then, not Saturday night,
Saturday
race.
afternoon, they ended in the rain, and then we got, it was pretty clear to everybody we were just going to get rained out on Sunday. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even, I didn't plan to watch a race on Sunday.
Yep.
I planned to do other things, and knowing that it was going to be Monday. And, yeah, we're getting really close to that. And Monday, so we had a noon start, so we had a nice, fresh, hot track, and I think we had a pretty good race.
I think we did too. Well, first off, the productivity slump, so that was kind of funny. The old Monday afternoon race, everybody gets to throw it on the old radio or just call in sick that day or whatever it is. We haven't had one in a little while, so it's good to have that. I was actually I was listening at the airport in Atlanta, and I this is funny stuff going on in the
that guy's blocked
Periscope. But I was listening at the airport in Atlanta, and then I was listening on the plane. Love me some internet Wi-Fi on the plane deal, and then I was listening when we landed in D.C., and I got all the way to the office that I was going to, and I was listening there too. Right at the end of it, people were like, "Hey, y'all want to or should we have a meeting or something?" I'm like, no, give me like 30 minutes. I'll be
just a second.
I was all over the place doing that. 600 miles in between when I started. I traveled further than they did.
Yeah,
during the race
for sure.
So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, well, I thought it was hilarious that Jeff Gluck reported that we still had like a 1.3 million rating in DC or for viewership. I think is what he said.
Well, that's cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Good for them.
Sounds like a lot of people figured out how to work around being at work or being at home and watching the race, which is cool.
Yeah, well, so you talked about it already, but it was a pretty darn good race. I enjoyed it. There was plenty of
perspective is everything. I think.
Of course, I was on radio.
We have bullet items, but Pocono during the daytime now with today's package puts on a pretty decent race.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the wind was blowing like starched flag into turn one meant a couple of things. And I guess I'll go ahead and just sort of drop the knowledge here.
Yep.
Engineering brain kicking in. So one of the things crew chiefs couldn't prepare for necessarily was how much faster having a tailwind was going to send them into turn one. So they're typically going to be tighter because they're entering the corner faster than they expected.
Yep.
But the thing it was doing, because it's a 270 degree, or actually it's it's probably closer to 290 degree corner, is that by the time you exit, the wind is actually blowing right into your left rear.
Mm-hmm.
So any side bite or side force they talk about that you get on the right side that helps tuck the right back in, helps the loose condition, you lose all of that.
Yeah, because you're just getting blown across the track.
Because the wind is just saying, hey, I see the broadside of your car now. Wah! So it made that whole suck people around that are underneath even worse.
Right.
So we saw a ton of guys that were in the middle get sucked around.
Yep.
Both in the Xfinity race and in the Cup race. And most notably, we saw it happen with Ryan Newman when Casey Kane dove under him, cut a better line, never touched him, cars never touched, but Kyle Busch was on the outside, and so all the air lifts off Newman's car. He gets loose, has nowhere to go, hits Kyle Busch.
He was, and they were madder than spit at Casey Kane to start with.
Right.
Like people were just cussing him out, and go back to the replay, and it's like, well, he didn't touch nobody.
Well, over the did you have a chance to listen to the radio?
I didn't.
So Casey said, "Make sure Newman's people know and Kyle's people know I never touched the 31."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they played the replay over and over and over, and it showed 5 never touched 31. Now, that doesn't mean there's not some racing fault, because now we're
given the
entering
conditions
this new world of, hey, if you put the car, like we had Denny Hamlin at, was that Texas? Like you make a decision that's going to upset the air that could potentially ruin somebody's race.
I think they're just getting used to that right now, though. Like right now, it's a racing deal. They keep saying, well, it's a racing deal, it's a racing deal. I think if we continue with this package and all the, and the aero the way it is, it's going to end up being in next year or 2 years or whatever, that they're going to start saying, that's not a racing deal anymore. You knew exactly what would happen if you tried that. So I'm curious, where that line is going to be too,
I completely agree, because most of the time when this has happened, it's happening on restarts, because we're still in this thought process of you have to get as many spots as you can during a restart because of how valuable that track position is.
Yep.
And I don't think Pocono disproved that theory, even though we had good side-by-side. We had the aero package lended itself to, well, it got slick as owl poop, as they say,
Yep.
at times. But we're not all the way to where we want to be. That, like, if you get a great restart as the leader, you can still get gone and nobody can catch you, depending on what track we're at. And I think that's the issue, is that how important do you weigh the risk of, like, maybe going in too deep in a corner, maybe making a decision in a turn on lap of a restart, and taking the chance of going, well, if I screw up or if some weird stuff happens that I'm not prepared for, and I wreck my day or wreck somebody else's day, is that worth the risk of the potential finish? I think we're still in that bubble, even though we have better racing. We're still in that bubble that getting out front matters a lot.
Yeah. I mean, look at last week at Charlotte.
And I think the thing is, it's not necessarily a new thing. I mean, you and I are fairly new to discussing it, but getting out front has always been the best place to be.
Well, sure.
Leading the race is the best place to be. So, in the end, so what are we talking about? Like, why do we get mad at people for trying to take the best position possible early in a restart process? I don't think at the end of the day, when we get to Michigan, I think there's probably one person that might be mad at Casey, and that's probably going to be Newman, because he's kind of just a D-bag anyway.
Well,
sorry, Newman fans.
Well, I think he'll be over it pretty quick. I mean,
I think so,
once
too.
you go back, and like I said, for me, it's more about the evolution of this, where this is going to go, and at what point it's, like I said, no longer a racing deal. So, talk about some finishers. How about I think, didn't you pick Chase again as usual as your dark horse there? Ended up finishing 4th at Pocono.
Yes, I also picked Ralph Dale Earnhardt Jr.
That is true.
Who finished second.
So that was a mighty fine. I mean, always the bridesmaid, never the bride here with the second, 4th. I mean, bring me some wins, buddy. But although, I picked Martin Truex Jr. So.
I'd love to pick a winner. So, yeah. Well, I had done a little research before I picked Dale. He had a great race. And we talked about the Turn 4 stuff with the ESPN guys off air. Was there anything about that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I mean, they had just asked, is Junior back now? And they put back in quotes, just kind of leading the witness there a little bit. But is Junior back now? And I mean, the consensus, there wasn't actually a consensus, which I thought was interesting, that there wasn't a consensus that he was never not there to start with. So why are you saying he's back? Is just a weird situation.
Right.
But,
so what was the gist of Marty and McGee's comments?
So Marty wasn't on there. Ricky Craven, the sensei, said he was never gone. And McGee said he's not back, but he's better. And then
okay,
Pockrass said, no, he's not back. Sorry, Junior fans. And Orjovich had said something like he was never gone. So, anyway.
Yeah, I was kind of on the never gone chapter, personally.
Well, sure, especially if you're picking him and he finishes second. He's going to make the chase. He'll be fine. And, we'll see when we get there. But, I don't see him letting up anytime soon on that. So, anyway. But, yeah, great picks. Sherwin, and finished fourth. I don't know where Jamie McMurray finished, but we didn't get our Jays again winning. That was my whole dark horse pick, was having all the J
that's
names.
right. It was a bunch of J's in a row that
the last six have been won by Junior, Jeff, Jimmy, and Joey, I think is what it was, and two different juniors, that is. So anyway, I picked the other junior to go 2 in a row, and that did not happen. He suffered some issues early on. I think he crashed somewhere. I don't know what happened. Somebody crashed into him. Some sort of wheel deal. Anyway.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Let's, I thought this was another interesting Turn 4 segment. We're just going to turn this into the Turn 4 breakdown
Turn
show.
4.
But they talked about the Indy doubleheader and whether or not NASCAR should do it. And I'm only bringing it up because me and you have talked on the podcast before, which I thought was kind of cool that they were bringing it up. And some of the guys were saying things that, I was kind of patting ourselves on the back a little bit because we've said the same thing. Why not do an Atlanta-Talladega in the same weekend? Why not do, Atlanta-Charlotte, Saturday, Sunday or something? Of course, if there's a rain out or something like that, things get a little weird. But why not try it? See what happens.
Well, it was cool. Charlotte, in any place that's close to Charlotte, would be an interesting thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte, Martinsville, Charlotte, Darlington, those are all they're less than 200-mile deals.
Yeah.
Atlanta's just a little bit further than that, but not a whole lot. We know all the drivers and the series teams are flying anyway, regardless of where we go.
Yeah.
But
Atlanta-Dega is 80 miles?
If you look at Hampton, then it starts to add up a little bit.
Oh, true.
But still, it's not
110?
far. It's 2 hours.
Yeah.
Is what it amounts to. It would be a really neat thing to do, in the summertime, if you could do a Monday, Thursday, and then give the race teams the weekend off.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe do another weekday race, and then roll an off day in because we only get 2 every season, and then go back to the weekend stuff. If you could figure out how to pair it.
Or we've talked about the Wednesday night race or something especially during football season, and drawing in some crowds on that.
No kidding. I mean, and I don't.
Eldora did that, right?
Yeah. Well,
or Thursday, whatever they did.
Yeah, Eldora is Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
The Bristol truck race.
I was about to say the Bristol truck race.
Bristol truck race is Wednesday night, I think.
That's why Sherwin and I have not been to Bristol truck race.
That's why we haven't been, is because we have to take all those extra days off to be there. But I think NASCAR should experiment with shortening the schedule to not compete as much in the fall with football. And one of the great ways to do that would be to couple up during the week by doing Monday, Thursday shows in regions where it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I was right. It's Wednesday.
Pocono.
Carlton said it.
Yep.
If Carlton said it,
that's
it's
right.
true.
Coupling Pocono and Loudon is not. That's a pretty good. Or Pocono and Dover.
Those, and to be such completely different tracks.
That means you have to send 2 haulers. Is the only problem.
And 4 cars.
You start to fart around with logistics, and it gets a little tough. But I think that's a good idea, though. I think, and especially in the summer when the only sport you're competing with is baseball.
Yep.
For the traditional type fan that would want to watch racing, I think it's a great idea to try to couple those things and get as many people to go and get as many eyeballs available.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't watch, but to have the eyeballs available because you ran a race on Monday night, and the only thing they're competing with is in-region baseball. Yep. I think that looks like a good idea to me.
Yeah,
and a way to say, okay, well, we shrunk the schedule by 6 weeks. So we're actually going to be done in mid-October. Means that, like, even though a lot of those football games matter a lot in October, we're not into November where it's like who's set up to go to a championship game. I'm for sure watching Auburn, Alabama, or Auburn, Georgia.
I was going to say you're deep into your rivalries,
game 9
deep into your
versus if it's game
conference.
6.
Yeah,
like
so yes, we're up for it. Figure it out. I saw Meggy Dub on here who does deal with logistics in NASCAR going, no, don't do it. But, hey, that's for the eggheads to figure out in logistics, and, we'll just enjoy it. So I'm all about it. Let's move on to a viewer question that we had. Why not? Take a little break for a viewer question, or a listener question, viewer, whatever we call them here.
Yeah.
Ashley Stang asked us, what do you think about Firestone replacing Goodyear as a sponsor for the CMT Country Music Television Awards?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, I've been super pissed at Comcast for stealing CMT away from me and forcing me to pay more money for it, so I didn't get to watch or even DVR. The thing I would say is there's two ways this goes. Either Goodyear has decided that the value proposition of sponsoring the show doesn't fit their model, or Firestone says, I want those eyeballs, and they came in with a big check.
Mm-hmm. I think the fact that it's another tire company, a competing tire company, says a lot. That it's not like, oh, well, now it's the Goodies CMT Awards, or it's the, whatever, the Budweiser CMT Awards. It's the different tire sponsor CMT Awards. I thought that was very interesting, and of course we're hitting on the same, or a large portion of the same market that is NASCAR. Is this a going AM radio to say, does this bode something for NASCAR? But obviously that's tinfoil hat stuff.
Yeah, well, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that it's not racing at all that's driving these sponsorship decisions when it comes to country music television. It's a lot more about how do I get in front of as many eyeballs as possible. And while you and I have drifted away from liking country music is as popular as it's ever been.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in mainstream, society.
Mm-hmm.
So I would bet that what we're seeing is Firestone coming in and outbidding Goodyear. And Goodyear saying, you know what? I don't perceive it to have that much value. If you do, you go ahead and play.
Yeah, get Firestone on everybody's minds.
Well, Firestone has a great relationship. Well, not a great, but has had a great relationship with Ford. They had some issues in the 90s when they didn't quite have some of their chassis figured out with their SUV stuff, and they had some rollover stuff. But for the most part, Firestone has had a great relationship with Ford. And so it kind of makes sense that you would play to the crowd that buys a lot of Ford pickup trucks.
Sure.
That are going to come stock with Firestone tires.
Sure.
And I don't know that I don't know a company that says the same thing Ford does. I don't know another manufacturer that says you're going to come stock with these tires the way Ford says we're going to have Firestones.
Well, it's cool. I had some news from Mark Martin. I thought this was really cool, and you told me about it in the pre-show before I guess we went live on the Periscope. But Mark Martin, if you remember, I think last week or 2 weeks ago we were talking about it, where he hadn't actually been to a race since 2013 when he retired.
That's right.
And this was his first time back. And he was being interviewed. Where was he being interviewed? Who was talking to him? Do you remember?
It was Nate Ryan.
Okay, Nate Ryan.
It was Nate Ryan's NASCAR on NBC podcast.
Okay, yeah. So Mark Martin's on there, and he said, not only does he not feel like he's really part of the racing thing, but there's also not really an alumni outreach that NASCAR has. I thought that was pretty poignant and interesting. And you brought up a name. You're like, where's Ricky Rudd right now? Where's all these other guys that were heroes back in the day and back when they were racing and still have fans? I mean, you go to the races now, and of course you're going to see a lot of Mark Martin gear, but you're going to see a lot of Ricky Rudd gear. You're going to see a lot I'm trying to come up with names off the top of my head, but you know what I mean. Bobby Labonte gear. You don't see him around the track. You don't see Terry Labonte around the track. And these two guys have championships.
Yeah, well, I think the big takeaway for me, and I'm leaning on Spotter Brett and Door Bumper Clear for this, is the whole concept of why doesn't NASCAR have an alumni program, an outreach program that says, hey, we want you to come to XYZ race. Does that work for you? We've got a suite. You're going to get to hang out with retired NASCAR drivers or crew chiefs or team members or whatever. And we're going to promote that. The same thing you see like these college programs when there hasn't been an outreach program to alumni, especially distinguished alumni that have had a lot of success. With a college, it's like, you're recruiting teenagers, so showing somebody with success has a huge impact. You see coaches come in and say, we're going to have a renewed interest in bringing in alumni. Our exposure firsthand is Georgia Tech, and you see all these alumni in the stands, and you're like, that's a good idea. Well, why the heck doesn't NASCAR do that?
Right, or bring down, and they bring down in the football game, they bring down like here's the 1955 team, and they're a bunch of these old fellas that are just sort of waving to the crowd, and everybody's cheering them on, and it's great.
Right. Well, here's our All-American quarterback from 1972, and they bring him down, and everybody yells and waves and whatever, and then there's a significant number of donors who get to meet that person who maybe didn't get to.
Yep.
Why not do that for NASCAR?
And a word that I told you, and that I'm seeing on the PETM posse talking on the Periscope: homecoming. Have a homecoming race.
Homecoming, and why not do it like maybe 4 or 5 times a year, like depending on the region. Like when you're in Loudon, have the New England homecoming. And I mean the name that comes to mind for me is Ricky Craven, because he's so prominent still, because he's the ESPN.
He's the sensei.
He's the last one left at ESPN his only role is doing NASCAR.
That's true.
And then you have the Midwest. So I don't know if you pick the Chicago race or you pick one of the Michigan races, but you have those guys. Or maybe you do it even better to promote the Iowa Nation or Xfinity race. You do it at Iowa.
Stop mid-word. That's better than normal.
Yeah.
Normally we say the whole word and then have it. So you've caught yourself there.
Yeah, and then you got those West Coast stuff. You have 2 or 3 different opportunities to do it. Well, I guess just 2. You have the early season opportunity, and then you have
the Sonoma opportunity.
Which is a totally different area than LA
you can get
or
Pacific
Vegas
Northwest involved
or
in that,
Phoenix,
blah blah blah.
And you have Texas. Like, we have enough regions where you could say, I'm going to do like 4 or 5 homecomings. Charlotte obviously is going to be one.
Let's start with one. Let's just start with one.
Charlotte or Bristol.
And
it's got to be either. It's got to be one of those
Charlotte
two.
or Bristol or
Martinsville.
Yeah. Martinsville.
Everybody loves Martinsville.
That'd be perfect. Yeah, I'm in. Let's do homecoming Martinsville 2017.
Yeah, let's do Martinsville. That's Southeastern homecoming.
Yep.
Let's do Loudon 1 or Loudon 2. Loudon 2 doesn't make as much sense because
let's start
during
with that.
School season. Loudon 1 is during the summer when no kids are in school. So Loudon 1 is Northeast.
Let's stop beating this horse. You ready?
Yes.
I think Brad Keselowski. So let's talk about him a little bit. He was on that same Nate Ryan's podcast and had some interesting things to say, had some reactions to that. Go for it.
I think when Brad wants to talk in public, he's appointment television or appointment audio. I think the thing that becomes evident when you pay enough attention to what he's saying is he conveniently ignores things that are extremely relevant to the opinion he's providing. And I think that's where some of the skepticism comes into play. So, one, he's willing to say things that other competitors aren't, let people inside the curtain, so that pisses people off. That, hey, man, you're not supposed to say that. That's supposed to be a secret.
Yeah, or our thing. Yeah.
And then at the same time, the very next thing that he'll say is something that, hey, man, you ignored a very significant piece.
So
give us an example.
Give us an example, because we're talking in these weird clouds right now.
We're talking in tongues. So what I'm talking about is he compared his jackman slamming into the side of his car to holding on the opposite side of the field of where a play went. And then also said it didn't impact the race. Well, then why did he do it? And why did you get penalized? Like, he did it because your team instructed him to do it because they think there's an advantage, and you were penalized because NASCAR knows that it was an advantage.
That's a strange analogy to me. And I like when Brad talks. When Brad talks, I listen. But yeah, that's a strange analogy that, okay, it's like a holding call. Although, all these guys are doing it. And so that's, I guess, somewhat analogous. Everybody's holding.
Everybody's cheating.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and that's the point is like, man, he disappointed me because I love how honest he is. I love how much he's willing to share. I hate that he ignores significant pieces of information in order to express his opinion the way he wants to express it.
So let's go to Michigan.
Let's go to Michigan.
Let's also go to Michigan physically and literally there too.
Yeah.
Michigan won first race at Michigan this year, and Xfinity race. I didn't know this until I just before the pre-show. I was just looking up some stuff. Dale Jr. is going to be in the booth for the Xfinity race.
I am so stoked.
That's going to be cool as crap.
The fact that he has come so far out of his box that he's willing to do secondary color on an Xfinity race, to me, is so cool. I mean, I don't even care if you hate Dale Jr. for whatever reason, popularity or what have you. He's going to be fantastic in the booth.
Yeah. Speaking of the booth, there was a little bit of friction between, I think, Brad Keselowski, who we just talked about, and Jeff Gordon.
Yeah,
in the booth, and of course I was listening to it on the radio, so I had to read it all afterwards what was going on. But I was like, man, people are poo-pooing on Jeff Gordon in the booth right now. He's doing what he can. He's talking. You can't, as we've learned doing the podcast and stuff, and especially in our early episodes when I used to have to delete 5 seconds at a time of silence. I mean, you're not just going to be sitting there silent. So he just talk, and I think something came out that kind of rubbed old Brad Keselowski the wrong way.
Well, in defense of Brad and in defense of Jeff made a statement about what happened at Vegas incorrectly. Brad got a speeding penalty at Vegas, and Jeff had fixed in his mind that the body mod that everybody had seen a picture of was the reason why he was penalized. And that wasn't true because NASCAR was not policing that activity at that time.
Well, sure, but if you crap on every guy in the booth that makes a mistake, then I mean Darrell Waltrip would just have a list about 3 miles long every race.
We wouldn't be able to figure out how Darrell Waltrip has a job.
Yeah.
So,
how many times have you yelled at the screen when they're talking about something that in that moment or in that one factoid, a specific piece of information just because you just looked at it or something, or it's your favorite driver, and they say something and you go, no, that ain't right. What are you talking about? And then you're, tweeting at them angrily.
If I had a quarter for every time I've yelled at the television, you stupid,
fill in the blank,
the 12-letter cuss word that starts with an M and ends with an R.
Okay.
I would be significantly more well off than I am right now. and
a lot less gray hair, a lot less
gray hair, a lot more money in the pocket. They're going to make mistakes. The fact of the matter is, Fox hit a home run with Jeff.
We've talked about it.
And it doesn't matter if people get pissed off when he screws up.
Yep.
Because he's going to screw up. Darrell Waltrip does it 7 times a broadcast. So the fact that Jeff Gordon did it once about a very technical fact is insignificant. It's not going to matter. It's going to blow over. It's Thursday. We're going to Michigan. People already forgot.
Mm-hmm. We're going to Michigan. So let's talk about Michigan in the Cup race. you'd put the note. I'll point it out here. A huge swing in the opposite direction of last year's gigantic spoiler that they put on there, and they tried to create that whole plate race-like conditions. And now we've got the super duper low downforce package. Cars just sliding around, going to be crazy, and reducing in spoiler height, reducing the splitter overhang. It's going to be neat to see now. And I like that they're taking these kind of big swings at things. Me and you have talked about it even in race cars during the race. We're like, you'll be listening to the radio and your guy's going, I'm loose, and they take a quarter round. I'm still loose, they take a quarter round. I'm loose, they take another quarter round. Like, freaking throw 3 rounds at this guy and say, you ain't loose no more, buddy. See what happens. So they're throwing 3 rounds at Michigan.
At least. So last year, for those that don't remember, we showed up at Michigan with a 9-inch spoiler. And NASCAR very much wanted to try to create an unrestricted restrictor plate race.
Uh-huh.
And they failed miserably. And so now we're showing up with a 2.5-inch spoiler. We're showing up with a splitter that's a 1/4-inch less overhang than what we've been racing at fast tracks all year. And fast tracks so far, especially in the daytime, have given us some really good racing. And so I think we're going to see some really neat stuff at Michigan. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see entrance to corner speed be 2 or 3 miles higher. I think we're going to see center corner speeds that are 20 to 25 miles an hour slower than what we've seen in the last couple of years. And what that's going to allow for is drivers to get to move around and to find a spot that says, you know what, I can run this line and manage my tires and I can get around you. And that's what we're doing.
That's what we've been liking.
And then we can
that's what everybody's been liking.
And then we can let the ponies eat down the straightaways.
Yep. So looking forward to it. Shout out to Roger Curtis, the president of Michigan International Speedway.
Got to meet that guy in person at some point.
For sure. He's we've said it before, I think probably this time last year on the podcast, that he's probably the most approachable and fan-centric of the presidents, and responds to people on Twitter, responds to emails, always listening to what fans got to say, trying to create an experience and taking care of season ticket holders and people who have multiple years with them and everything. So really cool guy. So
he wrote me a 500-word email.
Yeah, and it wasn't his secretary too. He's just
I mean, it's super impressive what he's able to do, the interaction he's able to generate. I mean, you see all the pictures coming out where he's like, "Oh, I hung out with this tailgate," and then here comes another picture on Twitter. I hung out with this tailgate. Like, he walks through the campground and hangs out with people and says, "Are you enjoying being here at Michigan International Speedway? If you're not, how do I make it better?"
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he has to take too much negative data back, because he's doing it so well that they're saying, yeah, we enjoy coming to Michigan International Speedway.
So let's do some picks. You ready for picks?
All right, I'll do some picks.
Start your action!
There he is. Let's do it. Obviously, you get to go first after an amazing round of picking last week.
Had a decent week. Finished second and fourth. Not going to gloat too much. Super hard for me not to pick the same guy I picked last week. But I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to pick the guy that we thought, or you thought, was going to be like a big part of Pocono, but ended up not being. I'm going to pick Martin Truex Jr.
Well, my hands are off my keyboard, and you can come around here and look at my screen. We just swapped picks this week. I put Jr. on Dale Jr. right on the screen here, so I had already picked him. I like this. Let's swap.
We're in the zone.
Yep. Let's swap drivers here, and you're going to take Martin Truex Jr. I'll take Dale Jr., so 88-78. Let's do this. That's
all
funny.
right. Dark horse.
Dark horse.
I'm going to go in a different place, kind of. Well, not necessarily a different place, but maybe a little bit different place again. He seems to be really good at the fast tracks, at least historically, and maybe hadn't caught up on the short tracks yet. So, dark horse pick for me is Austin Dillon getting his first win.
That's a really good pick, and that was the first name that was coming to my mind, too. We're 2 peas in a pod tonight. I'll take Larson. Coming off a little bit of momentum from last week, and then also hunting for that first win. And everybody knows or everybody thinks that this is coming. So absolutely, I think Larson's a solid dark horse for us.
Hey, by the way, Chase Elliott's going to win.
Yeah, watch Chase win, and it's the first time neither one of us picked him that time. So good picks. We are officially, I think, into countdown season for Bristol and Darlington. And there go the goosebumps.
Always. I love. We're less than 2 months away from Darlington, I think.
And
we're right
that means we're like a month and a half from Bristol. So getting some. Oh, that's our esteemed producer getting text messages. What's going on here? So yeah, we're like, what is it? 2 months, July, August, whatever. We're getting real close.
I think we're like 8 weeks away from leaving for Bristol.
Something like that. It's probably like 10, but whatever.
It's the second Saturday in August, I think.
I'll tell you this much. Me and you talked in the pre-show. I already called the days off of work, and you called the days off of work, so it's not that it's never official.
It's for real.
It just gets really, really official.
Yeah. And the thing is, because Bristol moved up, and going to visit my sister out in Denver moved back, I'm like Denver, a weekend Bristol, a weekend Darlington. Like a lot of fun coming up.
Tie one on. I think that's gonna close us out. You got anything else for us today, man?
Well, I wanted to shout out to one of our followers that interacts with us quite a bit, named Brent Jones. He's at Jones Brent 570. So that's at JONESBRENT 570. Thanks for all the interaction, bud. We really appreciate it.
There's your shout out noise for him too.
Oh man, I got jumped the gun, Brent. I apologize.
It's all good. We're gonna shout out too to Carlton at _Carlton. That's spelled exactly that way. Oh, Carlton, he goes to a lot of tracks, and he said he'll explain to us one day his secret of getting all the behind the scenes that he gets into. Really neat, and he's actually started a website called myracingadventures.com and has all the pictures and stuff. It's really cool. Y'all just need to follow Carlton anyway, just to see all the pictures and behind the scenes that he's doing. But now he's kind of putting together a little bit of a blog / image blog, something, I don't know, Instagramming, that sort of stuff. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. So y'all go check it out. myracingadventures.com. That thing's going to grow. It's going to be really neat. And once he has kind of that whole backlog of all the pictures and stuff, that'll be real cool.
I can't wait to run into some of these folks when we go to racetracks that they both go to, or we both and they also go to. Like the collaboration. I can't wait to get to Bristol. Because a lot of these folks that are following us on the old Periscope and the Twitter box and whatnot, they have their races they go to, and we have our races that we go to, and I can't wait for them to overlap.
Yep. So let's start doing this. I filled up the Jelly Bean Closeout Challenge cup there, so we're right back into it. Get you some. Y'all know how it works.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
Oh, he got way too big a handful of beer-flavored jelly beans.
That was playing an inappropriate amount.
We're going to be out.
Jelly Bean Closeout Challenge here for about 3 days.
Y'all get your sticker.
Get your sticker. Send that thing. Okay, so if you want a sticker, look at the PETM podcast handle avatar. That's the sticker. And you can send a message by DM or by email. By email is PETM@PETMpodcast.com. I got too many
joking on it.
Jelly beans in my mouth. I'm going to choke here.
Tweet us, DM us, email us, whatever. Facebook us. all that stuff. You go online. We said it last week. Go online, search PETM Podcast, and we're everywhere.
That's true. Y'all help us get to the point where if you Google PETM Podcast or PETM Racing Podcast, we everywhere.
Yeah. So check us out. Google Play Music. We're on YouTube. We're on iTunes.
Pocket Cast.
Yarn, Blue, something. I don't even know. Podbean. It's all over the place, y'all. As always, I'm Tailgate Mayor at Tailgate Mayor.
And I'm Sherwin at PREGAME. Pregame ENG.
We'll talk to y'all next week.